Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome. It's your friend King David. Per the usual, as we try to get this YouTube channel up and off the ground, give me some time to share this live. What's up, Kev? What's up, Lakeisha? Yikes. What's up, Lakeisha? Who I missed? What's up, Nick? If you're just coming in, say what up. If you're here now, say what up. What up, Trey? What up, Tyree? What up, Nina? Thank you, Kevin. Hopefully you'll love this one just as much. Hopefully so. Alright. We need about 2 more seconds. Share it to this page. Wow. And share it to Twitter. Last one. Cool. One second, y'all. I'm sorry. Bang. Okay. What up? Evening. Hope your day's been great. I'm here to talk to you today about this Wade's family, specifically Zaya Wade situation. I've been seeing a lot of opinions. For those who don't know, I'm sure a majority of us already know what's happening. This is pretty big news, but for anybody who doesn't, I'll give you a little bit of background, okay? So, Dwayne Wade has a child, a cisgender male, that is about, I believe, 12 or 13 years old. That has, first, as we know in previous history, come out of the closet as gay and was at Pride last year with Gabrielle Union and some other family members, whoopie whoopie whoop. Now, it was announced that Dwayne Wade's son was now transitioning to be a girl and would be going by the name Zaya Wade. Okay? He was saying Dwayne Wade is the he I'm referring to, is saying that he was in full support of his daughter's transition from male to female, etc., etc. I will add that there were no specifics given about any sex change, anything involving what they were doing that was further identifying that they were considering this their daughter now, aside from the pronouns that were being used and the name that was being changed, and I assume the clothes that will follow. We don't know about hormone therapy yet. We don't know about any gender reassignment yet, but I'm just giving you what we have to go off of, okay? That's the background. Let's begin. So I've been seeing a lot of kickback, as I word it, from people. Some gay, surprisingly, majority straight, and more specifically, a lot of them being black, straight people. I would like to add that you do have a few people who stepped up in support of Dwayne Wade's decision and things of that nature. One of them being the gang supported him and said that, he respected what Dwayne was doing. Now, here's what I think. Okay? I'll start by saying that I don't think it's a black and white issue. I do understand people not understanding. I want to start there. Because I can be reasonable and understand that everybody doesn't get to the same place at the same time and hasn't had the same experience the same exposure to create the same understanding, awareness, or empathy for a circumstance, situation, or person's position. Got it? Now, what I will say, there is a clear level of ignorance within our community. And this doesn't relate to anyone's opinion about whether or not this child is too young to have gender reassignment surgery, or this child is too young to do this or to do this. What this is about is black people, for me, and how I see it, what this is about is black people not being at a place where they are moving forward in their thinking with gender identity. I'm seeing a lot of opinions that are talking about this from the perspective of a choice. And people being worried about Zaya's mind changing because she's still developing and whoopty. And I understand from a healthy place that you want to make sure that you're making sound decisions for your children and it's not being made in their youth and in their ignorance and they'll regret it later. I get it, right? I do. However, when we talk about we wouldn't want our child, I had a friend of mine say, well, I wouldn't want my child to transition and go through all of that stuff at school and be bullied and be depressed or want to kill themselves because of it, from transitioning and doing these things at such a young age. And I said, okay, well, on the flip side of that, wouldn't you still have a risk of your child killing themselves from being unhappy and living their life as a boy? Because if I had to be someone I wasn't, that would bother me more than being who I was and getting flack for it. At least if my parents supported me and reassured me and affirmed in me that I was made properly, I was made perfectly, there was nothing wrong with me. So, in my opinion, I want to start off by saying that as it relates to what your children are going to deal with in the world and that being a factor, it starts from the home. Because it's the same thing if you think about a person being gay. They're going to deal with things in the world, but the way that they walk around with an armor starts at home. It starts with their parents' acceptance of them, their parents' support of them, affirmation of their identity and who they are, that allows them to walk in the world with a cloak on, a confidence, an armor to not be affected by the opinions of others. Okay? That's first. I've seen people, this one is extreme, but I've seen a post where a man stated that this is exactly why you got to be careful how you love on your kids, your sons, because a son's supposed to hate their father just a little bit. I'm not even touching that one. I'm just throwing out some of the crazy ideas that people hold from their own traumatic experiences and how they think that's supposed to be passed on to you. Whole nother time. Now, let's touch on this. Let's touch on the fact that we're talking about whether or not someone should be allowed to live in the skin that they feel they're supposed to be at that age, right? I can't speak for every 12, 13-year-old, but I can speak from what I got from that 12, 13-year-old. And that seemed like a person that was very self-aware, no? So if that is a very self-aware, intelligent, young adult, then if this person seems to know who they are, what am I afraid of as far as them not being sure about who they are? When I was 12, sure, there were many things I didn't understand yet about the world. But I knew who I was. Even if I had not come to terms with who I was aware of who I was. Nothing in that identity has changed for me. So does that mean that if your child comes home and they're just like, they decide they like how a wig looks on them one day and they start wearing a wig, that means that, okay, well, you need to start prepping them for the talk and be open to them transitioning to a woman? No. Because just like I talked about sexuality being on the spectrum, so is gender identity and how we see ourselves. We each have our own balance of masculine and feminine energies that we mesh together to create our own identity. Okay? So with this person, you have the exact same thing. So this person feels a certain way. They're sure about who they are. They express that to you over and over again, consistently, over an extended period of time. You watch this person develop from point A, constantly not looking like what you know boys to be. That's not a boy. Okay, this ain't. Well, maybe my son he just real gay. Okay, I can accept. He just gay. He real gay. Okay, this is a little further than gay. Maybe my son is, gender non-conforming gay. Okay, all right. Oh, oh, you feel like you're a woman. Tell me more about this. When did you start feeling like that? You just didn't tell us you felt this way, but you've been feeling this way since you can remember. Huh. Well, what makes you know that means that you are a woman, that it's just not feminine? Okay. Wow. And you understand that at this age? Wow. I didn't know that you felt that way. I didn't know that was your experience, and I didn't know that you were dealing with all of that at such a young age. Because, see, struggling with your gender is a very mature thing to have to deal with at 12, young lady. So, I get it. I do. And I want you to be happy. That's all I want as your father. I want you to be happy. So, let's see what we need to do. Now, I just generalized the conversation, but I wanted to create a picture of a conversation that could happen between these two people. And when you put yourself in a scenario where you watch it play out like that, even if that was a simplified version, it helps you create a level of empathy toward a situation as far as how it could go and how someone at 12 years old could have this conversation. Because I know I could have. I could articulate who I was at 12, what I desired, what made me happy, what made me unhappy. I could express that. And clearly, this young lady has that same ability at 12 years old. So, let's say, stepping back away from this specific person and generalize this as a word of advice. If you have a child, or a niece, or a nephew, or a little cousin, or someone that you are influencing that is in this same age group, this 11 to 13, 14 age group, and you're minimizing the maturity, the fullness of their experience at this point, stop simplifying it. They're not just kids. I don't know how long ago it was when you were a kid, how much you blocked out, how much you are able to remember. But I remember being 12. And 12, you are in puberty. All those aspects of your identity that were asleep are awoke. You may not have figured them all out yet. You might not know how to handle everything you feel and experience yet. But at that point, you're feeling and experiencing all the things that a human being can. You have awarenesses of what a human being can. What isn't developed completely is your decision-making ability. But that is what your parents are for. That is what these conversations are for. But those emotions, those needs, desires are at a full development once you start that gravy train called puberty. You're not the same no more. I can see me in the mirror. I see me in a room full of people. I'm aware that people see me too. I'm aware of how I stand. Oh my fucking God. What's going on? That's puberty. That's when you turn 11, 12 and start getting weird as fuck. You used to be like, hey auntie, hi, da 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 da. Now she like, hey Jerome, you like, hey, how you doing? Just weird. Hey, just awkward. Because you aware of yourself. But this is that experience. Now, step back. Again, generally, let me say again, parents recognize the maturity, the full range of experience that your children are having by the ages of 11 to 14 years old. Okay? Now, stepping back, with us taking into account and remembering now these little details of what it was for us to grow up, that transitional period from going to being a little child and to starting to becoming a person, your own individual, right? Do you remember how hard it was for you? Not even just, because a lot of the people here are part of the LGBT spectrum. Many not, but many are. So, of course you're going to say, well, yeah, mine was hard for me. But even take a straight person. Take somebody, you could have been one of the cooler kids at school. Didn't have an issue with being rejected or anything like that growing up. But still, during that time of your life, it was difficult to adjust to who you were becoming, who you thought you needed to be, learning how to socialize with people in this new way, the new expectation involving the age you're becoming and how you socialize, the social pressures of people maturing faster than you and feeling like you need to keep up, all the things that other people may understand that you feel like you need to know too. These are all things you're experiencing. Now take that and add on top of it that you're trying to understand your goddamn gender. You're struggling with your gender and dealing with that. Not just your sexuality, your gender. And imagine what that's like for somebody. I didn't have that experience, so all I can do is imagine. But I use my empathy from my own experiences to play up in my mind what that might be like. And to me, that sounds pretty damn challenging. Pretty challenging. So before we start to point fingers, notice I haven't chosen to lead this conversation that way. I didn't make this, let me attack people for the ignorance in their opinions thing. But I'm starting this from a place of empathy. Before we go to even sharing what we think about something that doesn't affect us directly. And furthermore, as we become more removed from being affected directly, we need to think even deeper, i.e., being gay and not trans, and furthermore, being a heterosexual person speaking on an LGBT issue, furthermore, a trans issue. Be understanding that you are 2 times removed from a circumstance, and before you share an opinion from a heteronormative, old way of thinking that you are having to come out of in this new millennial time, as you become aware and the people challenge ideas finally in an open spectrum via social media, you have to be aware that you need to step back and do double the research for yourself to just, and when I say research, I don't mean getting on Google. I don't mean Googling the definitions of words so that you can use them properly in a sentence. I mean listening to people who have had experiences dealing with the things that you are about to speak on. First, know what those people felt. Listen to some stories of trans women who are now 35, 45, 55, bitch 70 years old and been fished since she was 14. Listen to some stories from people like this. Find out for yourself, what did they think? How did they feel? I have a friend who transitioned when she was like 12, 13. She even dealt with some identity things involving her gender at some point in her life. However, she remains a woman today. And you know what that struggle for her was, in my belief? And I say that with all respect. I love this person. But in my belief, it had everything to do with religion that was conflicting, not who she felt she was. So when people are questioning their transition, most times, it has less to do with them not thinking that this is who they actually are, and more to do with how it will affect them with other people, institutions, what it means for them morally, whether they think that they're living right based off of the ways that other people treat them and the things that they project onto them belief-wise and instill in them. I don't think that any little boy, come on, y'all, I don't think that any little boy, no matter how masculine or feminine he may be, says, I want to be a girl, and commits to that in such a articulated and mature way. If we got a 5-year-old running around saying, Daddy, I want to be a girl, and he got all sisters and just like to play with the girl, you don't know if he want to be a girl yet. I get it. But somebody in middle school, somebody whose body is awoken, who is chemically going through all the processes, all the thoughts, emotions, and different things, they're awake. They're conceptualizing their identity. They are sharing with you the things that they are finding out. And if you have a child, you know your child. And a lot of the times, we have to be aware of the children we're dealing with, and it'll save us a half a step. It's never, let me be clear, and I want to say this, it's never to create some empathy to the families of people who deal with transitions. It's never easy for your family, trans people. Show them empathy too, okay? It is never easy for your family to let you transition. No matter how much anyone loves you, including me, if we're friends and you're trans, or you're a man, or a woman, cisgender, it is never easy to allow anyone to transition genders. It's not easy. And we all have to be empathetic, not just the family of the person transitioning, but the transitioner. We need to show one another empathy and love and understanding, even sympathy. Because sometimes you can't understand what someone's going through, but you can feel for them. The bottom line is, when you transition, someone dies. That is what we all must accept about a transition. Okay? When you transition, there is a death. Whoever you were as a boy, whatever that meant in the mind of those connected to you, what that relationship felt like to them, is going to change. If you were a girl, whatever you represented as a girl, the things y'all did, the ways that you interacted with this person, it's going to change. Things about how their demeanor will change. Things about their temperament may change. They might become more outgoing because as a boy they were hiding. Now they're a girl. Bitch, I'm in my skin now. So I walk in, titties moving. Hey y'all. You know, like, that's hard for people. It's hard to go from having the expectation that you were always going to have a big brother, and now you got a big sister. It's hard to have a daughter, and now you got a son. You had a daughter planned. Remember I spoke about falling in love? And I said that the thing that was dangerous was the hope, faith, and future. Seeing future for something, when you create hopes and dreams for things. No, it's not okay for our parents to predetermine who we're supposed to be. But it's fair enough in a simplified way that they would assume that they can at least plan for the same gender assumptions. That it's still going to be my son who's going to have something going on. Like, he could do this and whoop-de-whoop-de-whoop, or we can go do this later in life. Those things wash away in those same senses. They become different. And we all have to get to a place where we recognize on each other's ends. See, when you want someone to stop being insensitive to you, we got to also stop being insensitive to them, and vice versa. I'm not preaching at one person right now. This isn't to the LGBT. This isn't just to the straights. This is everybody. This is everybody. This stuff is hard for everybody. And we're in the first generation of really fucking figuring it out, okay? So kudos to us for being present enough to even be willing to try finally. To have these conversations, to make these actions. Kudos to every heterosexual man, and I'm not praising, I'm not pandering, I am simply bridging right now. Kudos to every heterosexual man who had old ideas because of what he was taught back in the 80s, 90s, 70s, wherever you from, whatever generation you're from, that has changed their thinking, that has stopped using words like faggot, that now acts normal in a room with a gay person, that is making an effort to change the way that they think. May you continue to do so, because you're moving the world forward. You're making the world better for your grandchild, your nephew, your cousin, your daughter, you don't know, your best friend who ain't told you who he was. You understand? You're making the world, you're not, there's no agenda going on with that. That is not an agenda. You can't make something an agenda when it involves identity. You can't change identity. You can brainwash people, but you can't change identity. If a nigga gay, he gay. I ain't never heard somebody think they was gonna throw pussy in the air and the nigga was just gonna turn straight. So you can't turn gay straight, then why do you think you could turn straight gay? Something already in there. Either that gay nigga still like pussy a little bit, or he not fucking pussy. Either that straight nigga like a little dick or a little nigga booty, a little bit, or he not fucking no nigga. Period. It's that simple. So you don't have to worry about your ability to be open and to allow people the space to be themselves to impede on what's going to happen with yours. That it's going to alter their identity or it's going to manipulate who they become. Because that's not how dyke works. Didn't no dyke bitch that no matter how pretty she was, get in your drawers because she knew how to sweet talk. That shit will work on any bitch that was for it, but you was straight. It wasn't going to happen. That's not how the world works. So, same thing applies to gender. No one's going to manipulate your gender. Let me tell you something. I'm a boy, Damon. Okay? I'm going to be a boy. First off, I don't got the motherfucking back to be a girl, goddammit. Do you see this back? Do you see this? Sir, it ain't for me. Okay? You can't convince me to be a woman. You couldn't convince me to be a woman as a kid. You might have convinced me to do some shit. I might have played with a Barbie doll, if you ask. And my dad wasn't there. Because I had them sisters now. They was playing with Barbie doll. I wouldn't play with Barbie. But that didn't make me want to be a woman. Can I be real here? Can we have a real conversation? That didn't make me want to be a woman. It meant that I enjoyed playing with a Barbie doll from time to time. Just that. Just that. And let's be clear that me playing with a Barbie doll didn't negate me being gay, bisexual, or anything. For any young man that plays with a Barbie doll, don't you assume he's gay because he played with a Barbie doll. Maybe he enjoys doing hair. Maybe he enjoys dressing women. Are you not ready to leave behind the stereotype that a man has to be gay if he's a stylist or a hairdresser or, you know? Remember how we had to be gay if we did skincare about 15 years ago? You see how ridiculous that sounds? Again, here we go with that topic of social norms and following social norms. We have to break out of that as a people. We have to think independently as a people. We have to allow people the space to be themselves. We as a community keep people in this tight little box. so much smaller than the rest of the world, and we wonder why we don't feel the same freedoms that we think other people have. It's not just that they have privilege and they get to be a certain way. They allow themselves to be a certain way. They allow themselves to feel a certain level of happiness and walk through the day with a smile on their face. They allow themselves to interact with their people and have positive, fulfilling interactions with one another. They allow themselves to be supportive, and they allow themselves to allow each other to be different. It's no black, white with white people. You got straight, gay, bi. Bob's a little funny. Sometimes he sucks a dick. Most of the time he's straight. We love him anyway. He's a great guy. It's like we got to get to a space where we can all exist. And you not throwing your beliefs on somebody else and whoop-de-whoop-de-whoop. You're not walking around with this mentality that the things that you were taught are just absolute and there is nothing you can learn in the world. You, my friend, are the biggest fool if you think you know everything already. The smartest man is always interested in hearing a different perspective, because in every perspective, no matter how outlandish, there is something to be taken from it. There is something that will upgrade, update, and level up your way of thought, your argument, even against that very thing. If you listen to what that person had to argue back, you'll have a better argument the next time you're in this conversation. But you have to be willing to be in a space to be open to conversations. You cannot hear, oh, this happened, or this person's doing this person's transitioning, this person came out the closet, this person is this. Oh, well, here's what I think about that. Whoa. We already know what you think about that, just based off how quickly you went to speak. We know what you think. We're not looking for you to speak anymore. If you have something to say at the instant you read a headline that does not involve you, involving sexual identity or gender identity, then we want you to be the first to step back. If your mouth open first, that means you last to speak. If your mouth open first, that means you should be last to speak, because you probably don't know what the fuck you about to talk about. It's the person that takes a reflective second to really think about this and let the other people who are involved speak first in the conversation to hear their perspectives. Okay, now I get where y'all thinking from in this. I get it. Oh, this is why they feel that way. Oh, and this is why gay people are in support of it, because they share this oppressed experience where they struggled living in their skin until their adulthood, lying about who they were and not being true to themselves. Oh, damn. They do all share that experience. Okay, well, even if they're not trans, then I understand why I'm not them. Okay, but let me hear. Let me listen. Wow. Y'all dealt with that growing up? You had all of those thoughts? I wasn't even thinking about shit like that as a kid. I wasn't worrying about stuff like that till I was in my teens. You were 9, 8, 7? Wow. This is what happens when you listen. You learn, you understand, and then you make informed arguments or opinions. See, you don't have to agree with anyone in the conversation to be heard, but you have to be reasonable. People cannot listen to your unreasonable opinions. So if you want to be even valid in any conversation, if you want your opinions to matter, you need to be reasonable in how you share them. You need to be conscious in what you say. We need to step back and we need to use empathy and sympathy for other people and their circumstances before we just share an empty opinion based off of something that was taught to us, not lived. What have you lived in trans identity? What have you lived in gender identity? Openly. Well, if the answer is nothing, then you need to learn something before you have such a strong opinion on it. Right? Because, ladies, who would I be to speak for a black woman on the experience of a black woman and speak strongly? Imagine that. Imagine what this comment section would be doing if I was speaking strongly on the experience of something I don't know anything about, except for what I empathetically may know and what I may know from listening to them. So the same applies. We have to respect one another's spaces. When we don't understand things, we have to listen first before just spewing hate, because that's what it causes. See, when you don't understand things, there's a quote, and I'm sure we all know, people fear what they do not understand. And when you fear things, you spew hate at them. You label them. You judge things you don't understand. But if you elevate, allow yourself to challenge your ideas based off of how your ideas blanketed and labeled a person as a thing, not a full-range human being. And now that you interact with one, you realize that all these things don't really add up. Damn, how's that? How could I force somebody to live inside of a skin to make me comfortable versus them? Because I'm going to make me comfortable anyway. I'm going to live in my skin and be me and make me comfortable. And then I'm going to deny you from living in yours to make you comfortable, because I want you to make me more comfortable, outside of it being my job to make me comfortable in my skin. So I'm going to put you at a disservice so that my needs can be prioritized and my comfort can be prioritized. That child, if certain of what their identity is, if their parents have taken the time, which I am certain based off of the conversations that they're sharing on social media, to communicate with their child, understand their child, it is nobody's place, nobody's space to comment on whether or not they should be allowing their child to transition or not. Because you wouldn't deal with the repercussions of your motherfucking child that hated you or slit their fucking wrist because you didn't let them transition. And then the headline reads, Dwayne Wade's LGBT son commits suicide, leaves a letter that he was a female and couldn't live this way. And then you be judging. The same very black people, the same, or even white, whatever you are, people that had such a strong opinion about his support of his child will be judging him for not doing something and allowing this to happen. You will be having a conversation about something totally different out of convenience. So wake up. Stop having an opinion on everything as it relates to other people's circumstances that you can't even fathom because you don't have any experience. I can't really speak on what it's like to be a billionaire. I have no fucking clue. I'm missing several commas for me to talk about it. So how much can I really say that's going to be valid? What real conversation can I have about a billionaire? Nothing. Nothing. So I'm not going to necessarily share my opinion on what I think billionaires should do. I don't know what they should do. Never been there. Never experienced that emotion. You know? So the same applies. Step back. Allow people. And gentlemen, my black men, specifically to you, not just straight, because it's gay as well and bisexual and it's masculine, feminine. My black men, stop limiting the spaces that we have to identify ourselves. Stop identifying what manhood is by hypermasculinity. It's trash. It's whack. And at this point, only the undeveloped female species even finds you attractive. Y'all can have one another. But I pray that instead y'all choose to both elevate into something else. But please, stop spewing hate. Stop trying to limit the spaces that little boys feel they have to be themselves. Coming out of gender identity, but just identity in general, even if he is completely straight, let the little boy be. If he got a bunch of sisters and he hang with his sisters, let him hang with his goddamn sisters. If that's what he's comfortable with, let him hang with his sisters. Stop projecting your own insecurities because you are not secure in yourself. Therefore, If you had a stain on your shirt, you wouldn't be able to hold your head high either. So you have to outline who your child has to be, how they have to be for you to feel secure about it, because for you, they're an extension of who you are. But guess what? They're their own person. They have their own identity. Allow them. Let's see a comment. Let me put this down here for y'all. Can I write? I'm trying. Hold on. I think I can. Oh no, I don't think I can write. But my Cash App is King David's World. King David's World. Money sign. But the bottom line comes down to stop limiting the spaces that we have, because you do yourself a disservice. Excuse me. You do yourself a disservice by doing that. You are limiting yourself as well. You cry, you hurt, you get sad, you need support, you need a hug, you need to express. And when you create these ideas about what a man should be, you don't allow your space, you don't allow yourself the space or me the space to do that. And if you want to limit your space for yourself, do that in your household. But don't bring that into the world for the world to give me that limitation. So we as a community need to move past these ideas of what manhood is, what these gender norms that we carry, and how everything is supposed to be. It's extremely outdated. Now, I'm not saying that everybody should be walking around like Billy Porter, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with Billy Porter wearing a dress either. But what I'm saying is, whether one man's dress is a pink wristband and another man's dress is a mohawk, a little flare in the hair, and another man's dress is a skinny or a little boot. Another man's dress might be a bag. Whatever their version of self-expression and freedom within both of their identities as masculine and feminine energies, allow them to explore who they are. Allow them to identify themselves not by a label or a category, but by an individual, a full individual as they are. And listen to your children. Don't tell your children who they are. Find out, because you don't know when they're born. They already assign a personality. You have to discover it. They already assign gifts and passions, life paths. You are supposed to be finding out what that is and doing everything in your power to cultivate them into being the best version of what they were given, not deciding what version you want it to be, okay? To Dwayne Wade, Gabrielle Union, even the siblings and extended family, the friends who have stuck by them, kudos to y'all. I don't even know if you understand yet, maybe you're beginning to, but you are leading a major revolution amongst the black community. We don't have any representation like you, never had it. And because of who you are and how you are accepted within the community and you taking that stance, you allow others, blacks in the community, to have the opportunity to take a stand with you. And that spreads and shows where support is. And in places that we may not even know it existed, places like within the game. So even though at this time we're seeing a lot of people be vocal about having an issue, let us rejoice in the fact that people are being vocal in their support as well, no matter what that balance in the numbers are. Thank you guys for everything that you're doing for the community. Thank you what you're doing for your child. You don't even understand that. For those of us who dealt with these own things in our families and what weren't accepted in our upbringing, you heal something for each of us. We may not be able to get that moment from our parents, but to know that someone else is getting it from theirs lets us know that the world is moving in a place that we can be okay with. Because for me, as long as I know that by standing here and being who I am today, that another little boy never has to think he couldn't exist, that's enough for me. So thank you guys tremendously. Thank you to my followers, the kingdom, for tuning in. I thank you guys for starting to come over to my YouTube page. I look forward to continuing to bring you lives on this platform exclusively. Make sure that you are subscribed. Make sure you like my videos if you think that they were worth liking. And please, if you enjoy the things that I say, turn on your post notifications so that you're updated on whenever I go live. It's your friend King David. Have a blessed, positive, productive, and last but certainly not least, encouraged evening. I love you guys. Thank you for tuning in with me. I'll talk to you soon. And most importantly, please, this is a discussion, okay? The kind of platform that I'm trying to create is a dialogue. I want you guys to be interacting with one another. I want to interact with you. So please, always, if you felt inspired to share something, get in the comment section, share your opinion. I will do my absolute best to make sure that I get to it. Sound good? All right. It's your friend King David. Deuces.